Alright, I'm just tapping in with the video, and this is to be a part two to the video about solidarity. And I was making it. It's gonna sound just a little bit cam because I was making a this video before and it cut out. And when you're rehashing something, it doesn't sound as spontaneous and living as the first time you say it. But what I was saying on there is that for quite a while, I wore a Pan African solidarity emblem on it, or emblem on me. It's like the black silhouette of the continent of Africa, the geographical region of Africa that's distinguishable by the shape of it, with these same colors, minus the white. And it's very bold, and it's very, most people, if you wear that, people know that means something, and it looks valuable. Not in term, it's interesting because it looks about cooler than anything you could wear, like as a necklace or a chain, but it's not something that somebody would go to rob you for. And if they did, it would be like a little bit weird to rob someone of a Pan African solidarity emblem. And if anything, it's good for that person that robbed you because now they can rock something righteous. um, so it's like, if you're really about promoting that type of thing, then it's not that bad to have it taken off of you. That's actually the way I think we should be with a lot of things. Like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Take the shit if you want it, because you should be worth more than anything that you're wearing. But I'm not trying to flex with that, but I'm just saying that that particular medallion, it was very bold. It was, a lot of people would call it beautiful. A lot of people that wouldn't normally compliment someone would call it beautiful. People from a lot of different walks of life would respect it, and it would look beautiful and have weight. But at the same time, it's not something that you would just go to jack somebody initially. It'd be kind of like, because one is that it didn't cost a lot. It was like probably less than $15, about $10 for that. It probably appears in some of the other videos on here. And actually, I had some videos like where I had like a like a shrine. I had like I'm trying to think of the word for it, but it was like I had a shrine that I put on some of my videos, and that medallion is on that shrine like that. I have a shrine on there that are some things that are symbolic for me but meaningful to me. Like, I had some videos with that. I had the character of the Predator. That's my favorite animated character because he's specifically a hunter of hunter. If you think about most of the people that are like in this, the man, the system, status quo, all the things that beat down poor people, stuff like that, but also kill poor people and stuff like that. The Predator hunts that type of stuff for sport. But also the way that the Predator looks, that's a very primal, visceral image, salient image of a human male, but also just a human being. Because that, according to King Noble, that's the way. King Noble didn't reference the character Predator, but King Noble has referenced that the human hair will exactly grow long and dread up of itself. Human hair will become dreads in nature without the modern grooming amenity or technology. And that's a deeper thing because the function, like, some people would look down. One of the main things that I think people would look down upon people of African descent is the distinction in hair between African hair and non-African hair. And I'm not saying non-African as though anyone is different than African, but the coarse hair versus the fine hair, or straight hair versus coarse hair, as it's called. That's one thing that I think has impacted the self-esteem and the self-image of people of African descent. Because if you go back to like say the 60s and 70s, or like even before then, a lot of people of African descent would be more so leaning into and appropriating the Eurocentric beauty standard, because they would have like haircuts that would be like, if it's very short, it looks straight once it gets that short, or like different ways of replicating standard Eurocentric standards of beauty. And to this day, a lot of people do that. Even people that would be from like you'd say like a background that's not about imitating white people. Still, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say white people derogatory, but you come from a actual authentic background of people that are not like in the United States, that are not trying to look non African, but the hair will still look non-African, with like because the hair more so looks European when it's straight or in braids. Um, but that's actually how hair does look. It's like your Rastas in Jamaica. For most of my life, I actually didn't wear my hair long, like in dreads, because I felt it looked a little bit more Eurocentric, like leaning towards Eurocentric. But then I watched there was a video by a man named New Breed Global Truth about like just before the pandemic, and he was actually talking about the significance of hair for men and people in general, and how your hair is not just it's not just aesthetics. It is aesthetics, but it's part of your real vitality. But it serves a function in with the earth. And so I had grown my hair long at different times, but never past an afro. But specifically when I seen that video, something you watch it. There's a difference between some things that do advertising. They'll actually teach you something in advertising, or it's just brilliant advertising. There's a music media company called Unison. They had very brilliant, beautiful advertising like around the time of the pandemic. But then also they would have like email correspondence with their customer base, and I actually I appreciated the advertising and the email correspondence with that company. And one of them they put the distinction between signal and noise. So a lot of things like right now, if there's any given number of noises in the background, I don't know what the video will pick up or not, but some of it specifically is talking to you and it specifically has an impact for you. So out of all the things you would do online or watch online, it's kind of like writing. Like a lot of your writing, if you're a writer, music or anything creative, 90 to 99% of the things you do is 90 to 99% of the things you do. But then there's 1 to 5 to 10% of the things you do, and you know that's something unique about that particular thing. But it takes sifting and wading through a lot of output to get something that truly clicks, whether for oneself or for within or without. And you could say that maybe the same thing if you're thinking like you think a lot of. They say that according to Julian Blanc from Real Social Dynamics, going back, he was in some controversy at one point, I think like overseas, but with some of his statements. But he was saying that um, uh, that we think a lot of rehashed thoughts. We think cyclically. We think that we think linear. We think that we develop linear, but we actually more so likely think and develop cyclically. And so even to do something great, like I had an experience this summer of like really getting the hell away from a lot of people that didn't mean me no good, but actually having to get all the way to where I thought it'd be better, where I actually know people, but those people also don't mean me no good. And that was the last nail in the coffin. They had me have walk it all the way the hell back. Well, I actually flew, but still wasn't nothing pretty about that. I got all the way back and had to figure it again. So what would that be if you actually got off you got away from you got away from Mass and them, and then for one reason or another you had to walk it back. The greatest things you might have to do it more than, or imagine you won the championship, right? But sometimes every once in a while there'll be like a little bit of smoke or politics about people winning shit, and then the people that's supposed to strap the strap at the victory, they do. There's this film called Happy Gilmore back in the day. That's a hilarious film, but it's actually kind of deep because there'd be some things about like how competitive is competitive, how much can you cheat and win and still be a winner for having cheat, and how far will you go to win, including cheating, and did you win if you had to cheat? But also, what is victory? Do you really get the victory to win? So sometimes you can get spit in the face or ran off, or you don't get that shit that you thought you're supposed to get at the finish line, like that. Such that if you really want to beat the game of life or beat anything or get away from anything, anyone, you may have to be willing to do it more than once. That's just a word to the wise. It's not always good to go, even though you did the right things. You did what you had to do to get where you need to be, and you did that appropriately. You still might have to walk it back like that because that's how life is. So I had to do that, but a lot of things are cyclical like that, even our thoughts and our endeavors. So if you did that, you might have to do it again because this is a cycle now, a circle, not a straight line. But our thoughts are like that too, that we go over a lot of the same thoughts of even of our own. We go over a lot of the same thoughts of others or different iterations of others' thoughts, but also our own thoughts and iterations of our thoughts. But every once in a while, there'll be something really in there that click and it changed you like that. And that's signal versus noise. I picked that up from some advertising correspondence. Um, but um, but so but so that video with New Breed Global Truth, it was signal for me like that when he was actually talking about what hair means. It's kind of funny because he then later cut his hair all the way off, and I had been bigging up in him to like one of my personal fitness trainers at that time, right as the pandemic was kicking off. I had been. I think that's the time he did that. So he inspired me right before the pandemic, and then in the figuring out what the hell the pandemic is upon us, had changed his hair like that. But big up him still for that. And I told my trainer, I was like, yeah, I had been rocking with this dude. That's why, because at that time I had an afro, and it didn't actually look that fly. I mean, some people that like afros, now afro is an afro. It's somebody's cup of tea, but a lot of people didn't like afros, and I would rock that afro at jobs. Like sometimes I would do something with my hair just to get the job, but then I'll let that shit fly. And you already hired me. You can't dismiss me just because I got an afro. So I rocked that afro in a lot of places in professional settings. I was a school bus driver, rocked the afro like that back then. But then at a certain point, like at a certain point, I realized that you can't. Oh, but that brother that had inspired me with the hair, he shaved his hair off, and I'll tell my trainer that about that a little bit. He's like, nah, man, I ain't rocking with that, man. You should if you're with the dreads, you should stay on that. But people gotta do what they gotta do, and people change too. There's nothing wrong with long or short hair. It's your prerogative. That's what's cool, is that it's your choice. That's what's cool about what's cool, is that you choose it. That's cool. So it's still cool that he chose to wear his hair short. But I recognize that I can't get it that long if I'm rocking the fro, because if I leave the fro alone too long, it'll get knotted. It'll like knot up like that, and then you can't pick it, and it's not healthy like that. Or if you pick it a lot, I still have my hair, but it gets fine. And if I'm picking it a lot, it's gonna start to it's gonna get very fine. So the only way I can get it and keep it long is to braid it, and then it exists like that, and it gets longer and longer. And once in a while, I can fly it like that, but I can't fly an afro all the time and have it still look right. But so for most of my life, I wasn't rocking with the braids because I thought it was Eurocentric looking. But predator, that's what a human being will look like. So that may speak to the recesses of our experience and our ancestral memories. Is that human beings look like dreads in nature? So that's a very poignant, self-empowering figure for me. I think that the figure predator is almost a little bit of it's a little bit of an Afrocentric, or just original human, original man. I'm not saying any other human beings are not original man, but just the original human being, the form of that would resemble something like a predator, and probably would go up against a lot of bullshit we have now as status quo and technologist elitism stuff goes. If you take a real natural human being from nature, would probably go up and have at some point come into smoke with the bullshit that's about us, that's about pillaging the environment and one another. So I rock with Predator by default. um, but I would also present that symbol of solidarity like that. But what I meant to say, the deeper message of this video is that look of that Pan African colors like that, with the silhouette of the continent of Africa. That's almost like a form of currency that's tantamount and even greater than cash money. You could say that's greater than cash money. The symbolism of that, because you walk out in public, you got cash falling out your pocket. Someone's gonna knock you over the head about that cash. Yeah, the cash is cool, but they're gonna confiscate of that. They're not gonna respect you for that. They're not gonna cooperate with you for that. They're not gonna help you accomplish more things, including cash, with that. But you rock the solidarity colors like that, you may get more traction like that. You could get, for anything good, there's something bad, so you could get negative traction for that too. That's true enough. But you could get what I'm saying is that the RBG colors have as much pull as symbolically as does cash money in the truest sense, in the realest of situations, I think. So I would wear that in all different places, including uh, um, traveling across the country in the middle of the night on a motorcycle, and sometimes being at gas stations. And I had the kind of experiences that go with rocking something like that at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Now, you could say that maybe that's egregious wearing that in America, but a lot of people, they want to know who you are, what you're about. Like people would walk. I'm near a restaurant now. People walk in here, they want to know what I'm on. Like you're a man to your own devices. You're not part of a distinguished set of people. I don't mean that as a street organization, but people would want to know, when people want to know something what you're about, they really want to know who you're aligned with. That may have to do with how people try and don't try other people. It's not just how formidable you are, but how well connected you seem you are, like with other people like that. Um, so they want to know what you're on, what you're about, who you're on, who you're about. where you're from that is. So when I would wear that, I wouldn't do it to mock or to slight the actual the sacrifice and the contribution and the opportunities of the American soil that I was on. And on that trip across the country, I got a lot of support with brothers, like Midwest brothers, motorcycle people, just Midwest people of that didn't look nothing like African. That would give me some real support, critical support. I can't even enunciate how much of support I got, mercy I got. That's called traveling mercies that I got, even while I was wearing that. But it wasn't to mock that or be better than that, but it's just to say that's where I'm from. That's how I identify it. That's where I'm coming from. Solid. When I would rock it, to me it would mean human solidarity because they say all human beings are from Africa, but I would just rock it as solidarity, a human solidarity like that, at all times. Because if you're about something, it's all times. But what I meant to say is that within that, the color green in there is very significant. So I did another video, the previous video of this same series, part one. The color in here are poignant. I won't rehash the black and the red symbolism. But I like this actually even better than the African solidarity because it also has the color black refers to human beings. Because both light and darkness almost have no I would be one to say that light and dark have no meaning without the other. Like it takes a degree of darkness. For example, I look like this now, right? Oh damn it. So thing ain't nothing free in this life. There go my smoothie right there. But I come over here and I look a little bit different like that based on the light like that. So that's to say that all things they have a they have light and dark give meaning to the other, and you can't entirely enunciate or appreciate what is what is light or darkness without a little bit of the other one to give it meaning like that, because in the truest sense it's transcendent and it's more so light has meaning based on light is pure, real light is pure, like from the sun, but it has meaning based on the contrast and the contours of what would be less than pure. That's how you can appreciate the light reflecting off, because light is pure. So for it to give contrast to something, that thing would have to be impure. Therefore, you can perceive it. But darkness is also like that because in the pitch of pitch black dark, it's not actually dark at that point. You could almost say it's light. If you get into pitch black darkness, there's no perception at that point. But it's near about the same as light. They overlap like that. But from that standpoint, the existence is black, or it's like a negative value, but it's value par excellence, but still a negative value because it doesn't have any meaning until something less than so existence in its truest sense is sublime and inaffectable. That means it can't be described, but to go beyond what we as human beings can call perfect from a human, anything that we would perceive or enunciate or reach for as humans is anthropomorphic because it's very difficult to get outside of our perspective as anthropomorphs or as the primate family. We view things that way. Some of the same power dynamics that we have in primate groups, human groups, primate groups, we overlay that onto what we call great and what we fathom as great, including the concept of perfection. But when you're reaching for something like that, all would be less than that. If that's the only thing worthy, is worthiness is the only thing worthy. So all else would be less than worthy, but has meaning for how it comes up and looks next to and with distinction of what's worthy. So you could say that negative, that the negative par excellence, but also positive par excellence, and the transcendence of that is the contrast in between light and dark, where they're actually one in the zenith. But so you could say at essence, if you had to say one, light is more so, I would say, affirmative, and dark is a little bit negative. But life is also like that. It's affirmative on the surface. It's positive on the surface, but it more so exists and functions a little bit more negative. So what's really great, negative or positive? You could almost say, I don't know if you could really say negativity is less than positivity, or if positivity is viable without negativity, or negativity viable without positivity, such as also dark and light, with and without um, uh, um, the over the connotations and the way that we appreciate light and dark with a moral ethical lens that's arbitrary. I'm not saying as skin tone. I'm not putting morality or ethics upon skin tone, but just what we would call dark and light, the darkness of night, night itself, daytime itself, light itself. We have some moral values that we affix to that may be arbitrary. But at essence, the deepest of deep. If you think about outer space, do you think about light or dark? I think most people would think about dark. So that, and also some of the great things, like according to Osho, great things like a tree, creativity, they exist in darkness before they become manifest, and they need the privacy. The greatest of things are the sensitive of things. So the greatest of things, like say a human fetus, it needs the privacy and gestation of darkness, the darkness of a womb. According to Jung, the actual experience of a child, of a fetus inside of its mother's womb, is maybe the deepest experience of love and happiness that is possible for a human being, and what we're reaching for all our life. So I'm in front of like a nice restaurant. Some people may be actually coming here to reach for a sensation of not only nutrition, sustenance, which would be part of the mother's womb, but also just the peace and happiness and joy and contentment and satisfaction of the mother's womb for even a moment. What you would have, what you would divulge of your finance and your resources in order to experience that for just a moment is actually significant. Because if you think about it, how much you would spend for a meal eating out is not cheap, but you're willing to do it for just the sensation of satisfaction. That may be reminiscent of the womb, according to Jung. And that's also dark like that. So that's the primal color would be of there's no color without light, clearly, but the foundation would likely be, can be symbolically dark. And so such as in us, people emanate from this existence. So therefore the black symbolizes people, but also a lot of people are fair of complexion. And so I think that that's why I like the white better, because you have the black represents the people, but I'm saying that's all people, not regardless of skin tone. The red is the blood, the living life energy force. When in liquid state, that's like blood, but it's deeper than what we call blood. The connection of the living life force. The Like, I'm kind of getting a little bit broad with this, but like the biosphere, Gaia, things like that. That's a little bit like the blood that unites us. Then you have this has the symbology of peace, and then that being white. I like that because it's more inclusive of people that would be fair of complexion. But where the main point I want to point out was the green there, because that green is currency. Whether it's currency. So this life, what we have to do in this life and enjoy in this life, is from the bounty of the earth, and also us being part of our membership upon the earth, of the earth, us being members of the earth, but us also being members of one another as a community. So such that all that we experience of vitality and health and favor and success in living, viability of life, is from the bounty of the earth, but also our cooperation upon the earth, one to the other. That's true currency value, and so that's what's symbolized in the green of the medallion, and that's what can be felt in exchange when bearing that medallion in sincerity among other people. But if bounty and viability is the earth, its resources, and one another, which are also the earth and its resources, in our cooperation, which is yet a higher tier and form of resources, because it can marshal and organize resources, we have no standing or viability within that, or access of that, other than and outside of membership, group membership, our inclination and disposition and configuration one to another, like that. So there's actually there's no light. There's this scene in the film Lord of the Rings, where they're hearing from that dark voice, the figure doesn't appear a lot in that film, but he was saying that there's no life in the void, like that. He said it very prominent in there, that there's no life in the void. But you could say that there's similarly no life outside of solidarity, is where I'm going from with that. But the deepest, truest, most universal, most the most universal form of currency and value and viability is in-group membership, preference, protection, allegiance, loyalty, solidarity, the value, bounty, the earth, that's part of territory, earth, resources, plants, animals, and humans. All that together can be appreciated in the color green like that. But then a lot of the greatest things are also exactly appropriated, re-engineered, bastardized, and leveled, leveraged against human beings and the very things that they're appropriated from, to function the same way but to a different outcome, and that's like your cash money. So cash money is exactly green. I'm not saying that cash stole from the Pan-African symbolism or Pan-African symbolism stole from cash, but cash functions the exact same way. There's some people here I don't know from nothing. If there's some cash on the ground like that, it could be counterfeit. It could not be. I recently met a person that was doing. He was showing me some origami, like actual real life origami, and you can practice origami with you can practice to do origami on real money with like practice origami paper that looked like money. But whether or not it was that, if you just had something that looked like cash on the ground like that, that's going to have a visceral reaction for most people. If for most people that aren't even necessarily all about money, you can't ignore some cash money sitting right there, how it affects a person on a primal level. Different people have said that cash affects people on a primal level. What it is reaching for, what it has symbolized your whole life, and what still speaks to you and is more dear to you than your own children, your own partner, your own life, your own livelihood. What's more dear to you than all of that likely is in-group membership, because none of that's viable without your standing or your proximity to other human groups and what they afford you. So therefore, when you see something green, money, but what has represented to you your whole life, privilege, access to the means of bounty upon the earth, that is the earth, its resources, and human beings, which are also the earth and its resources and the cooperation thereof. That's what you have seen next to and activated by green money your whole life. So that will speak to you like that. But it's exactly, but the outcome and function of that cash money is actually the same solidarity as the symbolism. Okay, so this we got. So I'm by a restaurant. We got food that came from the earth and was also prepared and served by people that are part of the earth, and by also resources that were part of the earth, and we're all access over green cash money like that. So you're okay, come eat with us. We got something cool for you. We got a smoothie. Now I just kicked mine the hell over. But we got something like that. We got some nice, you could have it. It's all good to go if you got that green stuff. You're okay. Yeah, this is expensive. You're not bringing us nothing you're not bringing us nothing tangible other than your empty stomach. But you got that green stuff that you must have done something somewhere or another. Someone gave you that based on your cooperation with the in-group, collective, status quo, boycott structure, value structure, profit structure, and the equity the ancient equity that speaks to, and that replicates further. So you're good. We don't know where the hell you got that from or how the hell you got that, but you got it somehow. And so we'll mess with that a little bit. You're cool. You're all right with us. So like, hey man, like you just got out some hard times and shit. Hey man, you just fell the hell off a motorcycle. Where are you from? I'm from Africa. Some people kick my ass in for that. Some people say you're all right, but you just come to a regular place. You're hungry and stuff like that, man. Oh man, you want some from us? You want something to eat tonight, right? Well, what are your colors? What do you want? Oh well, I don't know nothing, but this is what this I don't know. I actually know what someone that gave me this to me does, what they're about. But they gave me, I was okay with them enough that they gave me this. Have you seen this before? Oh, that's that green stuff, right? Oh, he on green, man. Yeah, you're all right. You're cool. You can come get something to eat with us. But let me keep that too, because I'm about to show somebody else that I'm cool too, because I got that from you. But that's actually what happened there, is that you were benefited access to the collective resource, bounty of the earth, and the cooperation of members of the earth, uh, uh, based on the color green and what that symbolizes. Because the fiat currency is worthless in itself, because it has ceased to be like gold and silver and precious metals. So it's worthless, but it's not worthless as symbology goes. So if you affront that, if you efface that, or you circumvent that, you're egregious to the penalty of death, because you can be incarcerated and lose your life while incarcerated. So it's punishable by death, whether directly or indirectly, to trifle with that, the symbology of the dollar, the almighty dollar. That is the almighty solidarity. That's greater than any particular nation or currency. Solidarity in itself is greater than that. But and that's why the last thing I want to land with this is that, sometimes you'll see people that like say like there's a few billionaires, right? We've all heard of a few billionaires. You hear some of the main ones every once in a while, and then every once in a while you're like, wait, damn, that person's actually the richest one in the world, and they've been for the last 5 years. But then you forget about that bullshit, and then you figure out the one that they passed up is actually still the richest person in the world, and they got it like that, and that person's not as rich as that person. But some of these people that really got it like that, they're at the top like that. You think that they're all good because they had stashed enough symbology. You think that they're the greatest person in the world because they stashed this much symbology. But the symbology is not greater than that which it symbolizes. That is the status quo, boycott structure, collective value, collective sharing, collective cooperative marginalization. Also, a lot of your military conquests and endeavors the world over are a part of the marginalizing facet of group membership solidarity, that can be very punishing and heinous like that. But but that the actual the group, no, nothing is bigger than the group and its interests, including any members of the group and the group's own interests, and the symbology is not greater than the group and its interests and the meaning of that. Because life is really about meaning. Meaning is really what life is at essence. Is what is the meaning of it. Say someone were to someone were to sneak around with somebody, old lady or somebody boyfriend like that. It doesn't really make that much of a damn difference that this one and that one did this sneaky thing with your partner, because your partner had either done that or thought about doing that with other people prior to meeting you. But that they had met you and then did that sneaky thing, that alters the meaning of their relationship to you, and it's maybe hard to stomach like that, or hard to handle. But so meaning is very important. But some of your very wealthy people, they're not actually great because of how much of representative currency they've managed to hoard and stash. Whether you appreciate that as cash or digital ledger, or even assets, and even assets, and capital holding, that doesn't make a person better than the what it doesn't make someone better than the collective bounty, because they can't even access their own uh, assets, holding, means of capital without further cooperation and support of other human actors, members, and their resources and access to resources and capital and standing in assets that would allow anyone. So we're always at the mercy of one the other. How try as you may any station in life, we're always in one way and another and another in one way and another, be at the mercy of one another in terms of physical resources, social and emotional resources, support, anything that makes life viable and or worth living. We're at the mercy of one the other, and a lot of it's very skewed and heinous and weaponized towards people that get the worst of it. It may be very benefiting uh, um, benefiting and uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when something makes you want to blush. Uh, like I can't think of the word. Like when something makes you want to blush, but like when you're like when someone like puffs you up with a compliment. Uh, um, what is that word? There's a um, dang, like when something makes you want to blush, when it's there's a word. Sometimes when you're speaking, you don't access your mind the same way when you're speaking as when you're normally thinking. um, Flattering is very, some people can be very flattered by their position within their arrangement of their position and their accessing of the collective bounty of the earth and its members, including esteem, self-esteem. It can, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with how much of representative symbology you, or digital symbology, or even real access and marshaling command over resources and capital is not what matters in itself, such that sometimes when people get to be at the very high end of things, they get surprised when their money doesn't serve them as far as they thought it would. They're not, because like a lot of your really wealthy people, they're not they're admired, their wealth is admired, but they're not admired. And so there that can be a little bit of a conflict or dissonance, is that I thought I was this special, I thought I was this entitled because you got this many favors. But even as you were getting favors, like you're getting comped at this hotel, this and that, they still had to actually do work for you to be favored and entitled at that amenity accommodation. So you were still costing them, even though you're bringing them their resources. Now they can redeem that for other labor and or resources, which you, that symbology that you gave them. But still, technically, you more so cost them than you benefited them in that moment. So you're still being taken care for and pandered and treated almost like a child, even with your sensation of wealth and assets. But what I meant to say is that what that shows is that when a person is wealthy, part of the purpose of allowing people to be very wealthy, way up there, is that it just gives meaning to the entire. Because to have a pecking order, you need to have a low and a high end of that to give the entire range of it meaning. So that you have people that are way up there. Now we know where the gauntlet fell. Like we know where the fight is at. We know what we have, what we're up against now. That we know there's people way up there. It gives meaning to money to have people way the hell up there and way the hell down there. It gives meaning to money because sometimes like you think about how much people cough up to have a car and stuff like that. If you're honest, most people that drive cars, one of the first time you ever got your hand on a steering wheel and drove by yourself, you probably blew past somebody walking or riding a bike or waiting at a bus stop. You probably had that sensation. I would wager most people that enjoy driving or drivers, you probably had the sensation of that leverage, whatever's in that fuel like that, have you blow by somebody, make short work out of somebody that's conveying themselves by physical means. That's significant. That'll impact a person just to see yourself get on past situations and people and weather and stuff like that in a conveyance, in a vehicle like that. Um, but but I think I a little bit lost that train of thought. But with the wealth and stuff like that, is that but it gives meaning to that. So that this person got to walk, this person got to ride a bike. Now it gives meaning to this car. This car, it might be a hoopy, it might not be the best thing, but it's also not the worst thing. So the stratification of wealth is part of the function and the impact of wealth and how it affects people's self-esteem and think. Because a lot of the way we make our decisions economically, it's based on our perception of being perceived by others and where we fall in the pecking order, in the totem pole, in the strata of wealth. A lot of the spending of wealth, I would imagine on a deep level, a lot of advertising, but also real business impacts and implications that amount all the way to profit and loss, losing jobs, losing livelihoods, gaining jobs, gaining livelihoods. It has to do with the perception of value. Value itself is largely based on perception. You cannot take perception outside of ramifications of value just simply in terms of supply and demand, which is, you could say that if you had to enunciate all of business in 3 words, it'd be supply and demand. But also value wouldn't be very far off. That might also be interchangeable, such that that's what some of your stratification does. The billionaires would be the egregious, it's not egregious, the most um, uh, uh, sublime end of that. They probably have real experiences and assets and value and resources that would actually go with that amount of opulence. But also just that they exist, that you somehow once or other heard of them existing, it gives meaning, but also it gives discipline, and it makes having less, it can make it hurt more. I haven't been the type of person to be like, I haven't had sensations like, I've heard different people say like once or another they saw someone drive this or that, and they're fucked up about it, like, damn it, what am I doing wrong that person got that like that. I more so haven't had thoughts like that in my life, because I've had enough of like spirituality and inspiration to know that there's things that are more worthwhile than that. And also even the people you would want to attract with that, they may be attracted to different things than that. But it gives meaning to have that stratification like that. However, people at the higher end of the stratification, they can forget, they can oftenly I think the YouTuber King Noble, when he makes references like that, he would say oftenly, they oftenly tend to forget that their ass is still part of a collective bounty structure, and that's what's more meaningful than even their symbology and access to it. such that that all people that draw bounty of the collective bounty must, one way or another, serve collective bounty. Your usefulness, your servingness of collective bounty is more important. Your usefulness is more important than what you got. So like, oh man, this is all I got. All right, man, but I'd rather put you to work. I need what you got too, but I'm about to put you to work because you're more useful for what you can do. That's the same thing with people who are very wealthy. And sometimes you see that because you see people that already beat the game as far as accruing like assets and access to resources, not the least of which money, but they still have something that vexes them, that they gotta strive for, that they gotta get after. So you're this and that. You've been the winningest this and that, the winningest influencer or something like this and that. But here you show up in my stream, asking me for participation more so. You're very wealthy, but now you're showing up in my feed, needing my cooperation and support. You could probably say like some of your very famous people, right? They already have as much as cash money can get you, and a lot of resources can get you. They have that already going for them. They got enough of that, but they still need social capital currency in a collective bounty structure. So they still got to be hot and popping this and that, and selling this and that, and they need those numbers to prove that they are viable, but also to function because they still got to answer to someone somewhere somehow, and they got to show that they can still get people to move. So you gotta do enough to show you can still get people to move, even as you're taken care of for, and you're kept by this society. You still have to serve a function in it to have the type of favors you're used to or the respect you're used to. So there go that millionaire show up in your feed asking you for suggesting this and that nonsense because they still need your participation because they still have to be useful they still have to be useful. They got enough this and that, but they still gotta be useful. So that's what I'm saying. We all gotta be useful, but we get places based on our allegiance or our perceived allegiance and viability in a particular group of human beings, such as what we're reaching for when we tender cash money, and also what is symbolized in the solidarity piece like that. I'll land this one here. But I do want to reiterate that I stand. If anything, if I'm going to be talking about on these terms like symbolizing different things, and what I'm about human solidarity right there. I think that human beings are beautiful. All human beings are beautiful. And I think what I was going to say in the another. So I have this series, a two-part series on solidarity, but I also had a two-part series on attraction and repulsion that I made where I appeared in a pink shirt. And one of the videos cut out where I was saying that I was talking to a coworker of mine who he was very, you wouldn't call him like traditionally handsome, but I saw a lot of women approach him, like even like beautiful women like from a street background approach him in confidence to get on with him. But one time he was calling a woman overweight when I was working with him, and I said actually, I didn't say actually, but I said, he asked me what I think about, like, well, don't you think she's this and that? I was like, nah, man, because everyone has an aspect of beauty. This life is beautiful, but nothing is so power is not power unless it's absolute. Beauty is not beauty unless it's absolute. This existence is not this existence unless it's absolute. So each person, each member of this existence, man, woman, child, animal, insect, fish, plant, and things that we know of and know not, are all beautiful, and they serve a function. But they're all a different degree and manifestation of the beauty of this reality. I didn't say that to his ass like that, but I said that. But I said all women are beautiful, but you just have to have enough seasoning and taste to see that particular woman's form of beauty. And he was like, "Damn, those are wise words right there, man." He meant that. When there's in your whole life, you're hearing people talk your whole life. So much of that is talking to you, but of all the things you've heard said, a few things are actually real when people mean what they say when they're talking to you, and you may not forget those. That was one of them for me, is when he said, "Those are wise words. Every woman has her." He quoted back to me what I had just told him in his terms, and he said, "Every woman has her beauty." Those are wise words. He said that, but I say every person, every creature, every living thing, and those that love them and are loved by them and come from them and came before them are beautiful. So that I say that I stand with human solidarity, irregardless of a pedigree, which we all come from the pedigree of love and are sustained and viable by the pedigree of love. So I stand by human solidarity with that and love. That's probably a better word. Just say love. Peace.